Hashtag abandoned hatchling dragon rescued after months of silence, and stuns the galaxy. The mining station Kepler-7 hung in the darkness between stars like a forgotten toy. Captain Sarah Chan pressed her face against the observation deck's thick glass, watching her crew unload cargo containers from their transport ship. 3 months they had been traveling to this remote outpost, and the place looked even more depressing than the mission briefings had suggested. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings from the lower levels," came the voice of her communications officer, Lieutenant Rodriguez, through the comm system. "The station manager says it's nothing to worry about, but the sounds are unusual." Sarah turned away from the window. The Kepler-7 mining station was supposed to be a simple supply run. Drop off food, medical supplies, and equipment. Pick up refined metals. Head back to Earth space. Nothing complicated. But 3 months into deep space, even simple missions could develop problems. She walked down the corridors of her ship, the UES Harmony, noting how the artificial gravity felt lighter than usual. Her crew was good people, but they had been in space too long. Everyone was tired. Everyone wanted to go home. The station manager, a thick-set man named Briggs, met them at the docking port. His clothes were dirty and his eyes looked worried. Behind him, 2 other miners stood silently. The whole place smelled like metal shavings and recycled air that had been used too many times. "Welcome to Kepler-7, Briggs said, but his voice did not sound welcoming. "We really appreciate you coming all this way. Supply ships don't come here often." Sarah nodded. "What can you tell me about these strange readings my officer mentioned?" Briggs shifted his weight and looked at the floor. "It's probably just the station settling. These old mining platforms make all kinds of noises. Metal expanding and contracting with temperature changes." But Lieutenant Rodriguez had been in space for 15 years. He knew the difference between normal station noises and something else. Sarah made a mental note to investigate before they left. The crew spent the morning unloading supplies. The mining station was larger than it looked from outside, with multiple levels going deep into the asteroid it was built on. Most of the miners kept to themselves, barely making eye contact with Sarah's people. Something was definitely wrong here. During lunch break, Sarah decided to explore the lower levels. She took Rodriguez and Chief Engineer Patel with her. The sounds they heard were indeed strange. A rhythmic tapping noise echoed through the metal corridors, followed by long periods of silence. There, Rodriguez pointed down a darkened hallway. "That's where it's coming from." They followed the sound deeper into the station. The air grew colder as they moved away from the main living areas. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls. The tapping stopped, then started again. "Captain," Patel whispered, "I'm reading some kind of energy signature ahead. Very faint, but it's definitely not human technology." Sarah felt her heartbeat speed up. First contact protocols ran through her mind. In 300 years of space travel, humans had found plenty of dead civilizations and empty planets, but never living alien intelligence. If there was something here, something alive and non-human, it would change everything. They reached a heavy door marked with warning signs about radiation and dangerous equipment. The tapping sounds were definitely coming from behind it. Briggs appeared at the end of the hallway, walking quickly toward them. "You shouldn't be down here," he called out. "This area is off-limits to visitors. Safety regulations." "What's behind this door?" Sarah asked directly. Briggs hesitated. "Old mining equipment. Broken machinery. Nothing interesting." But the energy readings on Patel's scanner said otherwise. And the tapping sound came again, 3 quick taps followed by 2 long ones. It sounded almost like a pattern. Like communication. "Open the door," Sarah ordered. "I can't do that. Company policy." Sarah's training took over. As a ship captain in deep space, she had authority to investigate potential threats to her crew and ship. She also had authority to investigate possible first contact situations. She pulled out her sidearm, not to threaten Briggs, but to show she was serious. This is no longer a request. Open the door or I will. Briggs looked defeated. He pulled out a keycard and unlocked the heavy door. It slid open with a mechanical groan. The room beyond was dark except for a single overhead light. And there, in the center of the room, was something that made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. It was a cage. A large metal cage with thick bars. And, inside the cage was a creature unlike anything in human scientific records. It was about the size of a large dog, covered in scales that shifted color from dark blue to silver as it moved. It had 4 legs, a long neck, and wings folded against its back. Its eyes were large and intelligent, fixed on the humans who had just entered the room. "My God," Rodriguez whispered. "Is that a dragon?" Patel finished. "It's a baby dragon." The creature in the cage made a soft chirping sound and moved closer to the bars. Its scales brightened to a lighter blue. It did not seem afraid. It seemed curious. Sarah turned to Briggs. "How long has this creature been here?" "About 6 months," Briggs admitted. "We found it in one of the deep mining tunnels. It was just lying there, barely alive. We thought it was dead at first." "And you've kept it locked up all this time?" "We didn't know what else to do. We sent reports to the company, but they said to keep it contained until experts could come examine it. That was months ago. No experts ever came." Sarah moved closer to the cage. The dragon hatchling watched her with intelligent eyes. When she reached toward the bars, it moved its head closer, almost like it wanted to be touched. "Has it tried to communicate?" she asked. "The tapping you heard," Briggs said. "It does that all the time. Different patterns. We thought maybe it was just making noise out of boredom." But Sarah was beginning to suspect otherwise. She had studied xenobiology in the academy. Intelligence could take many forms. The tapping might not be random noise. It might be language. "Has anyone tried to respond to the tapping?" Briggs looked confused. "Respond? It's just an animal." Sarah pulled up the recording app on her communicator. For the next hour, she recorded the creature's tapping patterns. The dragon seemed to understand it was being studied. It repeated certain sequences, almost like it was teaching. Tap tap tap. Long pause. Tap. Long pause. Tap tap. Then, it would wait, looking at Sarah expectantly. "Rodriguez, start tapping back the same pattern." Rodriguez used his knuckles against the metal bars. Tap tap tap. Long pause. Tap. Long pause. Tap tap. The dragon's reaction was immediate and dramatic. Its scales brightened to an almost glowing blue. It made excited chirping sounds and moved around the cage quickly. Then, it tapped a new pattern. Tap. Tap tap. Tap tap tap. "It's counting," Patel said with wonder. "It's teaching us numbers." For the next several hours, Sarah and her team worked with the dragon hatchling. They established basic numerical communication. The creature was not just intelligent. It was actively trying to teach them its language system. But, as the day went on, Sarah noticed disturbing things about the creature's condition. Its scales were dull in many places. It moved with obvious hunger. The cage had no bedding, no toys, no stimulation. Just metal walls and a water dish. "When was the last time this creature was fed?" she asked Briggs. "This morning. We give it protein bars and water twice a day." "Protein bars? This is obviously a carnivore. Look at those teeth." The dragon had indeed tried to eat the protein bars, but most of each bar lay uneaten in the corner of the cage. The creature was slowly starving. Sarah made a decision that would change everything. "We're taking it with us." "You can't do that," Briggs protested. "It belongs to the company. They have plans for it." "What plans? Leaving it here to die slowly?" Sarah looked at the dragon hatchling. 6 months of isolation. 6 months of inadequate food. 6 months of no social contact except hostile guards. But somehow the creature had maintained its intelligence and its willingness to communicate. That showed remarkable mental strength. The creature is clearly intelligent, she told Briggs. According to Galactic Council protocols, intelligent species cannot be held as property. I'm declaring this a first contact situation and taking custody of the individual under protection protocols. It was a stretch of her authority, but Sarah was willing to face the consequences later. Right now, a young intelligent being was suffering, and she had the power to stop that suffering. Opening the cage proved more complicated than expected. The lock was electronic, tied into the station's main computer. But Patel was an excellent engineer. Within an hour, she had bypassed the lock system. The cage door swung open. The dragon hatchling looked at the opening, then at Sarah, then back at the opening. It stepped forward carefully, as if afraid the door might close again. When it was fully out of the cage, the creature stood up on its hind legs and spread its wings. Even though they were small, the wingspan was impressive. The dragon made a sound that was part chirp, part musical note. Its scales shifted to bright gold. Then, it did something that surprised everyone. It walked directly to Sarah and gently touched her hand with its snout. The gesture was clearly one of gratitude. Rodriguez, prepare a containment area in Cargo Bay 2. Not a cage, a proper living space with proper bedding and food preparation area. What kind of food, Captain? Sarah looked at the dragon's teeth and claws. Fresh meat. And I suspect it might need more than just protein. Bring samples from our botanical garden. Many intelligent species are omnivores. As her crew prepared space for their new passenger, Sarah continued working on communication with the dragon. The creature seemed eager to learn human words, repeating sounds Sarah made and trying to mimic human hand gestures. But, more importantly, the dragon began tapping out longer sequences. Complex mathematical concepts. When Sarah drew simple diagrams in the dust on the floor, the dragon understood immediately and began drawing its own symbols. Captain, Patel called from her scanner. I'm reading massive energy fluctuations from the creature. Nothing dangerous, but the patterns are incredibly complex. Like it's thinking in some kind of energy language we can't detect. Sarah realized they were dealing with something far more sophisticated than anyone had imagined. This was not just a smart animal. This was a young member of an advanced species, possibly more advanced than humans. The implications were staggering. Where had it come from? Were there others? How had it ended up alone in a mining tunnel? As the Harmony prepared to leave Kepler 7, Sarah stood in the cargo bay watching the dragon explore its new environment. The creature had immediately understood the food dispenser, the sleeping area, and the communication panel they had installed. But what amazed her most was how quickly the dragon had begun teaching itself to use human technology. Within hours, it had figured out how to operate the room's lighting controls. It seemed to understand that different light levels meant different things to humans. Captain, Rodriguez reported from the bridge. We're cleared for departure. Course set for Earth space. Sarah took one last look at the dragon hatchling. It was standing near the viewing port, looking out at the stars. When it sensed Sarah watching, it turned and tapped a simple pattern against the wall. Tap tap. Long pause. Tap tap tap. 2 + 3 = 5. But Sarah had the feeling the dragon was trying to communicate something much more complex than mathematics. Something about the relationship between two different species working together. As the Harmony pulled away from Kepler 7 and jumped to hyperspace, Sarah wondered what they were really bringing back to Earth. A refugee from an unknown civilization? A lost child of an advanced species? Or something else entirely? The dragon settled down in its sleeping area, but kept its large eyes fixed on the viewing port. It was going home to a place it had never seen, with beings it was just learning to trust. Sarah made another decision that would prove crucial in the coming weeks. Instead of reporting immediately to Earth Command, she decided to spend the 3-month journey back building a real relationship with the dragon. Learning its language. Understanding its needs. Preparing for what might be the most important first contact in human history. But she had no idea that the dragon hatchling was also making preparations. Or that its presence on the ship had already sent signals across space to others of its kind. Others who had been searching for their missing child for a very long time. The rescue was complete. But the real story was just beginning. As Sarah walked back to the bridge, she could hear the dragon making soft musical sounds. It sounded almost like singing. Like a lullaby for someone far from home. She had no way of knowing that those musical sounds were actually a complex hyperspace communication system, sending messages to a civilization that spanned multiple galaxies. Messages saying that the lost hatchling had been found. That it was safe. And that it was traveling with a species that might, for the first time in the dragon people's long history, be worthy of trust and friendship. The galaxy was about to change in ways no one could imagine. The journey back to Earth space took on a rhythm that surprised everyone aboard the Harmony. Captain Sarah Chen had expected problems with their unusual passenger, but the dragon hatchling seemed determined to make itself the perfect guest. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's medical officer, had been skeptical about housing an unknown alien life form on a human vessel. But, within days, she found herself completely fascinated by the creature's learning abilities and what appeared to be an innate understanding of social behavior. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Vasquez called over the comm system. "The dragon is in the medical bay, and you need to see this." Sarah arrived to find the dragon standing next to the main medical scanner, carefully placing its wing under the scanning beam. The machine was running a full biological analysis, and the dragon was holding perfectly still to get clear readings. "It figured out how to operate the medical scanner?" Sarah asked. "Not just operate it," Dr. Vasquez said excitedly. "It understood what the scanner was for. When I came in this morning, it was pointing to different parts of its body and then pointing to the scanner. It wanted a medical examination. The results on the screen showed a complex biological system unlike anything in human scientific databases. The dragon's bone structure was incredibly strong but also lightweight. Its nervous system showed energy patterns that suggested a brain far more complex than its size would indicate. Look at this," Dr. Vasquez pointed to a specific reading. "Its metabolic system can process almost any organic material for energy. And these energy readings from its brain. Captain, this creature is not just intelligent. It's operating on a completely different level of consciousness than humans." The dragon made a soft chirping sound and looked at Sarah. Then, it walked to the communication panel and began tapping out a complex mathematical sequence. But, this time, the mathematics were more advanced than simple counting. Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had been working with the dragon on communication protocols, recognized the pattern immediately. "Captain, that's the mathematical relationship between mass and energy. Einstein's equation, but expressed in the dragon's tapping language." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The dragon understood relativistic physics. And it was trying to teach them. Over the following weeks, the learning accelerated on both sides. The dragon began picking up human words with startling speed. But, more importantly, it began demonstrating abilities that challenged every assumption about what intelligent life could be. Chief Engineer Patel discovered this firsthand when she was working on repairs to the ship's hyperspace navigation system. The dragon appeared beside her in the engine room, watched her work for several minutes, then began tapping out suggestions. "I thought it was just making noise at first," Patel reported to Sarah later. "But then, I realized it was identifying the exact problem with the navigation array. Not only that, it was suggesting a repair technique that was more efficient than what I was planning." Sarah went to the engine room to see for herself. The dragon was standing next to the hyperspace generator, its scales glowing with a soft blue light. When it saw Sarah, it pointed to a specific component and tapped out a series of numbers. "Those numbers represent the optimal energy frequency for hyperspace travel," Patel explained. The dragon somehow knows more about our own technology than we do. But, the most remarkable discovery came during what started as a routine language lesson. Sarah had been working with the dragon on basic human vocabulary, using pictures and simple objects to teach words. The dragon had learned dozens of human words and was beginning to combine them into simple sentences. Then, something extraordinary happened. The dragon walked to the viewing port, looked out at the stars, and spoke its first complete sentence in English. "Home is far, but friends are close." Sarah stared at the creature in amazement. The grammar was perfect. The pronunciation was clear. And the meaning suggested a level of understanding about relationships and emotions that went far beyond simple intelligence. "How long have you been able to speak?" Sarah asked gently. The dragon considered the question carefully. Speaking and understanding are different things. Understanding came first. Speaking is just making the sounds you need to hear. Dr. Vasquez ran more tests and made an astonishing discovery. The dragon's vocal cords were incredibly sophisticated, capable of producing sounds across a much wider range than human hearing could detect. It had been communicating in multiple frequency ranges simultaneously, but only now was it choosing to communicate in the specific range humans could hear. This means, Dr. Vasquez explained to Sarah, that the dragon has probably been carrying on complex conversations this entire time. We just couldn't hear most of it. The implications were staggering. Sarah realized they were not dealing with a primitive creature learning human ways. They were dealing with a highly advanced being who had been patiently teaching itself to communicate with a less sophisticated species. This realization led Sarah to ask the question she had been avoiding: what happened to your family? How did you end up alone in that mining tunnel? The dragon's scales shifted to darker colors, and it was quiet for a long time. When it finally responded, its voice carried an emotion that Sarah recognized as sadness. My people were exploring, looking for new worlds where life could grow. But something went wrong with our ship. I was put into a survival pod. I do not know what happened to the others. How long were you alone before the miners found you? Many of your months. Maybe a year. I was very small when the pod opened. I had to learn to find food and stay warm. The mining tunnel was safe and had water. Sarah felt her heart break. This intelligent, gentle creature had survived alone as an infant in harsh conditions for possibly over a year before being captured and caged. But the dragon seemed to sense her emotional response. It moved closer and gently touched her hand with its wingtip. Sadness about the past serves no purpose, it said simply. I am alive. I am learning. I am no longer alone. These are good things. The wisdom in that simple statement impressed Sarah more than all the dragon's technological knowledge. This creature had learned emotional resilience in ways that many adult humans never achieved. As the weeks passed, the dragon began sharing more about its abilities. It could perceive energy patterns that human instruments could barely detect. It could sense the emotional states of living beings around it. And, most remarkably, it could manipulate certain types of energy in ways that seemed almost magical. Lieutenant Rodriguez discovered this when he was struggling with a malfunctioning communication array. The dragon watched him work for several minutes, then approached the equipment and placed one wingtip against the main control panel. Suddenly, the entire communication system came online, working better than it had in months. How did you do that? Rodriguez asked in amazement. Your machines use energy in ways that are not smooth, the dragon explained. I helped the energy flow more smoothly. Dr. Vasquez and Engineer Patel spent days trying to understand what the dragon had done. Their best theory was that it could somehow perceive and manipulate electromagnetic fields at a quantum level. If this ability is common among the dragon species, Patel said to Sarah privately, then we're dealing with a civilization that has technology we can't even comprehend yet. But, despite its advanced abilities, the dragon remained remarkably humble and eager to learn about human culture. It was particularly fascinated by human art and music. When Sarah showed it recordings of Earth's greatest symphonies, the dragon listened with intense concentration. Then, it began producing its own musical sounds, creating harmonies that were hauntingly beautiful and unlike anything humans had ever heard. Music is mathematical, the dragon explained. But it is also emotional. Your species has found ways to combine mathematics and emotions in patterns that create beauty. This is very sophisticated. The dragon also showed great interest in human concepts of friendship and loyalty. It asked detailed questions about why humans formed emotional bonds with each other, why they helped each other even when there was no immediate benefit, and why they cared about the welfare of their communities. My people value wisdom and knowledge above all things, the dragon told Sarah one evening as they sat together in the observation deck. But, watching your crew, I am learning that wisdom without compassion is incomplete. Sarah was beginning to understand that this creature was not just learning human language and technology. It was learning human values. And, somehow, it was finding those values worthy of adoption. But, the most significant moment came when the dragon made a decision that surprised everyone. They were 3 weeks from Earth when the dragon approached Sarah with a request that seemed almost impossible. I would like to send a message to my people, it said. To tell them I am safe and to tell them about humans. How would you send such a message? We don't have any way to communicate across interstellar distances that quickly. The dragon's scales shifted to a bright gold color. I can send the message myself. But, I will need your permission to use some of the ship's power systems. Sarah consulted with her senior officers. The dragon had never asked for anything before. It had been the perfect passenger, helpful, curious, and considerate. If it said it could send a message to its people, Sarah was inclined to believe it. What exactly do you need to do? She asked. I need to connect my energy patterns to your hyperspace communication array. I can use it to send signals that will travel much faster than your normal communications. Engineer Patel was fascinated by the technical implications. You're talking about using our equipment as an amplifier for some kind of biological communication system? Yes. My people communicate across great distances through what you might call quantum entanglement of consciousness. Your ship's hyperspace equipment can boost this natural ability. Sarah made the decision to allow the attempt. But, she insisted on monitoring everything to ensure the ship's safety. What happened next was beyond anything her crew had imagined possible. The dragon positioned itself in the ship's main engineering section, near the hyperspace communication array. It placed its wing tips against specific control panels and closed its eyes. Its scales began glowing brighter and brighter, cycling through colors that human eyes had never seen before. The ship's instruments registered massive energy fluctuations, but all systems remained stable. The dragon seemed to be drawing power from the ship's systems while simultaneously controlling that power with incredible precision. Then, it began to sing. The sound was unlike anything the crew had ever heard. It was musical, but it was also something more. The song seemed to resonate through the ship's hull, through space itself. It was communication, but it was also art, mathematics, and pure emotion combined into something transcendent. The song lasted for nearly an hour. When it finally ended, the dragon opened its eyes and looked at Sarah with an expression of profound satisfaction. The message is sent. My people know I am alive and, well, they know about humans. And they are very interested in meeting you. Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and terror. First contact with an advanced alien civilization was exactly what humanity had been preparing for since they first reached for the stars. But, it was also the most dangerous moment in human history. How long before they respond? She asked. The dragon tilted its head in thought. They are already responding. The message I sent was not just words. It was a sharing of experiences. They have seen through my eyes what humans are like. They have felt through my emotions what kindness and friendship mean to your species. And, what do they think? The dragon's scales shifted to warm, pleasant colors. They think humans are remarkable. They want to learn more. And, they are sending a delegation to meet with your leaders. Sarah realized that everything had just changed. The rescue of one small dragon had become the beginning of contact between two civilizations. But, as she looked at the dragon hatchling, still small enough to fit in her arms despite its incredible abilities, she realized that perhaps that had always been the plan. Perhaps this creature's presence in that mining tunnel had not been an accident. Perhaps the dragon people had been testing humanity all along, waiting to see if humans would show kindness to a lost child of another species. If so, then, Captain Sarah Chan and the crew of the Harmony had just passed the most important test in human history. The dragon seemed to sense her thoughts. It moved close to Sarah and spoke quietly. My people have watched many species across the galaxy. Most fail the test of compassion. But humans chose to help a strange creature they had never seen before, even when it meant breaking your own rules. This tells us everything we need to know about who you really are. Sarah looked out at the stars ahead, knowing that Earth was still weeks away but that everything was about to change. The rescue was complete. The contact was established. But the real adventure was still to come. The arrival at Earth changed everything, but not in the way Captain Sarah Chen had expected. Earth Command's first reaction to her report was skepticism, then alarm, then barely controlled panic. The idea that an advanced alien civilization was sending a delegation to meet with human leaders sent shockwaves through every government on Earth. But what surprised everyone was how quickly the dragon hatchling became the most important individual on the planet. Within hours of the Harmony's docking at Luna Station, teams of xenobiologists, linguists, physicists, and diplomats descended on the ship. The dragon, who had chosen the human name Spark during the journey, handled the attention with remarkable grace and patience. Dr. Amanda Chen, Sarah's sister and one of Earth's leading xenobiologists, was among the first to meet Spark. Her scientific excitement was immediately tempered by protective instincts when she saw how small and young the dragon still was. This is still a child, she told the assembled scientists firmly. Whatever tests or studies you want to conduct, they will be done with consideration for Spark's well-being and with Spark's consent. Spark appreciated this consideration. Speaking now in fluent English, it addressed the scientific team directly. I understand your curiosity about my biology and abilities. I am willing to help you learn, but I request that we approach this as colleagues rather than as subject and researchers. The sophistication of this statement impressed everyone present. Within days, it became clear that Spark was not just helping with research, but actively directing it toward areas of mutual benefit. When human scientists struggled to understand dragon biology, Spark explained complex physiological processes in terms humans could comprehend. When they had questions about dragon technology, Spark demonstrated principles by improving human equipment in real time. But the most remarkable developments came when Spark began teaching humans about concepts that didn't exist in human science. Your species thinks of consciousness as something that happens inside individual minds, Spark explained to a gathering of Earth's greatest philosophers and cognitive scientists. But consciousness can also be shared, networked, expanded beyond individual boundaries. To demonstrate, Spark asked for volunteers from the research team. Dr. Amanda Chen and physicist Dr. Marcus Webb stepped forward. Spark gently touched each of them with its wingtips. Suddenly, Dr. Chen found herself experiencing Dr. Webb's thoughts and emotions directly. For just a moment, she knew what it felt like to think like a physicist, to see mathematical relationships as beautiful patterns in space. Dr. Webb, meanwhile, experienced the world through a biologist's perspective, seeing the incredible complexity of living systems. The experience lasted only seconds, but it changed both scientists fundamentally. They had experienced true telepathic connection, mediated by Spark's natural abilities. This is how my people share knowledge, Spark explained. Individual learning becomes collective wisdom. No discovery is lost. No insight is forgotten. The implications for human development were staggering. But Spark was careful to emphasize that such abilities could only be developed gradually, with proper preparation and ethical guidelines. Power shared thoughtlessly can cause harm, Spark warned. Your species must first learn to use such abilities wisely. Meanwhile, Earth's political leaders struggled with the approaching arrival of the Dragon delegation. President Martinez called an emergency session of the United Nations. Prime Minister Thompson cancelled all other government business to focus on first contact protocols. Every major world leader wanted to be involved in what could be the most important diplomatic event in human history. But, when Spark was asked about the delegation's expectations, its answers surprised everyone. "My people are not coming to negotiate with your governments," Spark said simply. "They are coming to meet with the humans who rescued me. They want to understand the individuals who chose compassion over fear." This meant that Captain Sarah Chan and her crew suddenly found themselves at the center of interstellar diplomacy. Politicians and diplomats who had spent their careers preparing for such moments discovered that the aliens were more interested in talking to a cargo ship captain than to world leaders. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the responsibility, but Spark helped her understand what was really happening. "My people judge civilizations by their individual members, not by their institutions," Spark explained during one of their private conversations. "Your governments make rules and policies, but you and your crew made choices based on your personal values. Those choices tell us who humans really are." The Dragon delegation arrived 3 weeks later in a ship that redefined everything humans thought they knew about space travel. The vessel appeared first as a shimmer in space, like heat distortion in the air. Then, it gradually became visible as a structure that seemed to be made of living metal and controlled energy. It was beautiful rather than intimidating, flowing rather than angular, and it moved through space with a grace that made human ships look clumsy by comparison. But, more importantly, it was enormous. The Dragon ship was larger than any human space station, yet it moved with the precision and responsiveness of a small fighter craft. "Your people build wonderful machines," Spark observed as the delegation ship approached Earth. "But my people become one with their machines. The ship is an extension of their consciousness, not just a tool they control." The delegation consisted of 3 adult dragons, each one magnificent in ways that made Spark look like a tiny reflection of greater glory. They were larger than Spark, their scales more vibrant, their presence more commanding. But they showed the same gentle intelligence that had made Spark so remarkable. The lead delegate introduced herself as Star Weaver, an individual whose age was measured in centuries but whose curiosity about humans seemed as fresh as a child's wonder. "We are grateful beyond measure," Star Weaver said in perfect English, speaking to Sarah and her crew in a ceremony broadcast to every human world. "You found our lost child and treated him with kindness. You shared your knowledge and your friendship. You proved that humans possess the rarest quality in the galaxy, the wisdom to help others without expecting reward." But Starweaver had more to say, and her next words changed the course of human history. "We have observed many species across many galaxies. Most are destroyed by their own fear and selfishness before they mature enough for contact with other civilizations. But humans have shown us something different. You have the capacity for growth, for wisdom, for genuine goodness. We would like to offer you partnership." The partnership offer was unlike anything humans had imagined. The dragons were not interested in trade agreements or military alliances. Instead, they proposed something far more valuable: knowledge sharing and collaborative exploration of the universe. "We will teach you technologies that will allow you to explore distant galaxies," Star Weaver explained. "We will share scientific knowledge that will help you solve problems of energy, environment, and disease. In return, we ask only that you continue to be yourselves. Continue to choose compassion over fear. Continue to help others who are lost and alone." But the dragons also brought warnings about the broader universe that humans were about to enter. "There are civilizations in this galaxy that view newer species as threats to be eliminated or resources to be exploited," another delegate, Voidcaller, explained. "Some will test you with force. Others will try to corrupt you with promises of easy power. You must be prepared to defend both your worlds and your values." This led to the most significant part of the Dragon offer. They proposed to help humans develop not just new technologies, but new ways of thinking and being that would prepare them for the challenges ahead. "Your species has great potential," the third delegate, Dreamkeeper, told the assembled human leaders. "But potential alone is not enough. You need wisdom to guide your growth, compassion to maintain your humanity, and strength to protect what you value. The dragons offered to establish teaching centers on human worlds, places where selected humans could learn dragon knowledge and abilities. But they were clear that such learning would be earned, not given freely. Each human who seeks to learn our ways must prove their commitment to the values that saved Spark, Starweaver explained. We will not share dangerous knowledge with those who might use it for selfish purposes. Spark played a crucial role in these negotiations, serving as both translator and advocate for humanity. When human leaders worried about the implications of accepting dragon technology, Spark helped them understand that the dragons were offering partnership, not dependence. My people do not create followers, Spark explained. We create partners. The knowledge we share will help you become more fully yourselves, not copies of us. When some humans worried about losing human independence, Spark offered reassurance based on months of observation. Your species has something my people have spent millennia trying to understand, Spark said. You have the ability to maintain hope in the face of uncertainty, to find joy in simple things, to create beauty from ordinary materials. These qualities make you valuable partners, not junior apprentices. The final agreement, signed by representatives of every human government, established the framework for a relationship unlike any in galactic history. Humans would maintain complete sovereignty over their worlds and their civilization's development. Dragons would provide knowledge and guidance, but only to humans who proved themselves worthy through demonstrated wisdom and compassion. More importantly, the agreement established Earth as a refuge world, a place where young beings from any species could find safety and care if they were lost or endangered. The dragon delegation was deeply moved by this offer. You understand, Starweaver said with obvious emotion, that we are not just offering you partnership. We are offering you family membership in the oldest civilization in this galaxy. And you are offering the same to us. But perhaps the most touching moment of the entire contact process came when Spark was given a choice about his own future. You can return with us to our homeworld, Starweaver offered. You have learned much about humans, and our people would benefit from your knowledge. Or you can remain here, serving as a permanent ambassador and continuing your studies of human civilization. Spark considered this choice carefully, understanding its implications fully. Returning to the dragon homeworld would mean reunion with his own people and access to knowledge and experiences beyond human comprehension. Staying on Earth would mean a life of service and continued learning, but potentially lifelong separation from his own kind. His decision surprised everyone, including the dragon delegates. I choose to stay, but not permanently, Spark announced. I wish to spend time learning among both peoples. I will be a bridge between two civilizations, carrying the best of each to the other. This solution pleased everyone. Spark would divide his time between human and dragon worlds, growing up truly bicultural and serving as a living symbol of the partnership between species. As the dragon delegation prepared to return to their homeworld, they left behind more than just technology and knowledge. They left behind a new understanding of what was possible in the universe. Captain Sarah Chen, who had started this journey thinking she was making a simple supply run, found herself appointed as Earth's first interstellar friendship ambassador. Her mission, to identify other humans who showed the wisdom and compassion necessary to learn dragon knowledge. Dr. Amanda Chen became director of the new Institute for Interspecies Understanding, where humans and visiting aliens would learn to communicate and collaborate. Engineer Patel was invited to study dragon technology directly, becoming the first human to truly understand how consciousness could merge with machinery. But, perhaps most importantly, Spark's rescue had proved something that changed how humans saw themselves. In a galaxy full of civilizations that had failed the test of compassion, humans had succeeded. They had proven themselves worthy of friendship with the galaxy's most advanced species. Not because humans were perfect, but because they were capable of choosing to be better than their fears and prejudices demanded. As Sarah stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the Dragon delegation ship disappear into hyperspace, she reflected on how much had changed since that day in the mining tunnel. One small act of kindness had become the foundation for the greatest adventure in human history. Beside her, Spark was already planning his next learning project, studying human poetry and trying to understand how humans created meaning through language. "What are you thinking about?" Sarah asked. I am thinking, Spark said, his scales shifting to warm, contented colors, that being rescued was just the beginning. The real adventure is everything we will discover together. Outside the viewing port, the stars seemed brighter, more welcoming, full of possibilities that neither humans nor dragons could achieve alone, but that together they might accomplish beyond their wildest dreams. The galaxy had just become a much larger, more wonderful, and more hopeful place. And it all started with one human captain who chose to open a cage and set a lost child free. The rescue was complete. The friendship was established. But the story of what humans and dragons would build together had only just begun. Years later, when historians studied this period, they would mark it as the moment when humanity truly joined the galactic community. Not as conquerors or supplicants, but as partners worthy of trust and capable of wisdom. All because sometimes the most important moments in history begin with the simple decision to help someone who needs help, regardless of who they are or where they come from. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of kindness.